Hey everyone, it's Kai from Cool Collectibles back again for another review. This time it's the Transformers Masterpiece MP-51 Arcee. This did ship out from Robot Kingdom late last year, and it took about 3 weeks to get here, which is longer than usual, but it has also sat here on my display here for a couple of weeks, so apologies for the late review, but I guess with the start of the year, schools and work starting up again as real life has taken over. So I do have a bit of free time this Saturday morning, so I'm just doing the review now, and I'm definitely glad to finally have a closer look at Arcee. It's taken a long time since they've released even the revised version of Hot Rod to come out with more figures from the original '86 movie. So it's good to finally have something new to go through. The packaging, as usual, and so on, comes with the instruction manual. I'm not too sure I like that depiction of her head sculpt there on this close-up view of what's on the collector card. So I think they could have done a better job on that one. The box itself, get the usual cover art. And all the depictions of the figure and the characters on the back there, so you get a nice shot of Ultra Magnus and Hot Rod and Arcee together there. Collected card wise, not too sure I like that particular depiction of her. I guess it's got a mix of the Japanese anime style with the very sort of female curvy legs, but that top half, especially the head sculpt, as I was saying before, I don't particularly like. Would have been nice if they just did the standard pose for her, but that's the usual card that you get. Because I got it from Robot Kingdom, it comes with the Hasbro Asia collector coin or pin this time, and it looks okay. Very similar styling to, I think, the Hound and the Bumblebee and the Optimus as well. So if you're into the coins and the pins, I guess it's a nice addition to that collection. Accessories wise, it comes with a fairly decent amount, nothing too massive or especially good to talk about really. I'll just get that out of the way. I do like the fact that they included the long rifle. I'm not actually sure, I can't remember actually seeing this in the movie itself, to be honest, or what weapon she held. I can't remember if in the movie she had this small one or even this sort of medium-sized one. But it does allow you to pin this in on the side there. You've got a little slot, and it probably fits on both sides. So you can just slot it in there and have her car mode with a rifle on the side, which I'm not sure who would display it like that. But I guess it's a nice option. One thing I do remember from the cartoon is this little thing that sticks out from her side where they're having that battle with the Junkions. And I actually thought you sort of injected it somewhere in this slot, but it's actually got a different slot where there's a little peg hole there, and you just sort of slide it in under there, trying not to scratch any of the paint or anything like that, and it sort of just sticks out from that little notch on the side there, which I guess is a nice option if you want to recreate that scene, although they haven't released any Junkions in the official MP series. But I do think there are some nice third-party options out there. I think this is the holster for that particular weapon. I'm assuming it goes that way. I've actually seen some photos of this when she's in bot mode, and that's on her thigh, where I don't know, it looks almost phallic-like, and it just doesn't look that great to me, to be honest. But we'll see when we get into the bot mode on how that looks. And as per all their usual recent figures, it comes with a whole bunch of blast effects. I'm not sure if it fits on all the other figures' weapons as well, but I think it looks pretty good in some action poses. So good for those that like a bit of toy photography. The face sculpts, I might go through the face sculpts after I do the transformation and what they look like on her. So I'll put that aside for now. But now I'll just give you my thoughts on this alt mode. Right, overall, after having a look at this car mode and comparing it against some of the photos of the third-party options, I really do have to say I think this one is probably my favorite of the Arcee options out there at the moment. It's probably the most accurate to the cartoon, particularly with the lines, the coloring, and so on. I think they've done a fantastic job with the design itself. The clearance is definitely a problem though. I think the hands here, I'm not sure, this was straight out of the box, so there's still a bit of plastic there and so on, but I think others have realigned them slightly to improve that tolerance. But I think the main problem for me is the position of the head here, and this sort of lower front axle, and that sort of tends to come below this line of the front wheels, and then it doesn't really roll that well, to be honest. The wheels are just the usual plastic wheels. They are pretty thin compared to some of the other figures, so that's a bit of a shame. But aside from the clearance issue, I think the overall design looks very, very nice. I do have the MP-40 hot rod as a quick side-by-side. So I'll just take that. So they do look pretty good together, scale-wise. Of course, if you do have the MP-28 original version, you'll get the figure with the blue windscreen, which is more aligned to how they looked in the cartoon, which is this figure here. And you can see the sort of blue windscreen at the back there, which definitely looks better in the car mode, in my opinion. But I keep the original figures in bot mode and the alternate repaints in car mode, so that's why I've got this one to give you a look side by side. So if you're into showing off some of the figures in their car modes, they do look pretty damn good together. I think some of the little mini figures that they've come with, a Hound and a few of the other figures, I don't think they can actually fit into the car slots there. There's no sort of real room for her legs, for their legs or anything like that. But I guess scale wise it looks fairly good. And I do like, I think this pink on it, I thought it was actually plastic at first, but I think there is a layer of paint all the way through that, so it does look very nice on display with that sort of semi shiny finish. So that's pretty much it for this car mode. The transformation, I've heard, isn't as complicated or involved as some of the other recent MP figures, which is probably a good thing for my part. But I'll pick one of the good transformation videos on YouTube. I'll link them in the description for whichever one I do use. And then I'll give you guys my thoughts on the bot mode, which, as always with these MP figures, comes with its fair share of its own controversy. So we'll go through all of that and my thoughts on that just after this. Hang on, I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so here she is all transformed up, and I will go through the pros and cons for some of the controversies in particular. But as you can see, she does look pretty good, but does have a pretty sizable backpack here. That does cause a few balance issues, but we'll get to that in a second. The hardest part really in the transformation, overall it's not too difficult, but the hardest part of the transformation is really getting everything locked into place properly with the backpack. The first part that scared me just in the transformation were these folding of the tail lights here. You have to slide them out to the side, and then there's a double hinge here where you fold them straight underneath and clip them into place. The first couple of times, because these joints were so tight, I did think something was going to snap there, but eventually I was able to slide them out. There's another slider mechanism on this white piece, so you need to make sure everything's slid in the right way, and then you can fold them over flat like that to make them sit like that. The second part that scared me was the rotation of the windscreen. You need to rotate it and then feed it through this hole, and that was a little bit tricky trying to get that clearance. But once you get the sort of gist of what the rotation and the angles are, it's not too bad. And the final part of the transformation that was a little bit worrying was actually clipping this final front part of the car over the top of the backpack. So the neck piece here, you need to make sure that the white part of the neck piece clips into a peg that's just on that pink part, just at the bottom there. Once that's clipped into place, and you definitely need to make sure that's clipped into place, you can then sort of adjust the front part of the car here over the back flaps here, and then you just need to make sure that that pink bracket that you see at the top there sort of curves over and is essentially parallel with the white parts of the car down the bottom there that you've folded in. But once you do that, and everything else is folded into place, it all seems to clip together. And it's quite solid. It's not like some of the past hot rod figures and so on where it's quite loose. Once you do all of that, it actually stays in place quite well. And as you can see, it is pretty sizable. If I just let her stand up there, and as you can see, she does have a few balance issues that everyone was a little bit worried about. But once you get her standing like this, it's not too bad. Let me just lower the camera a little bit and turn her on the side. So many photos do have her with this slight leaning forward, but that's pretty much the best you can do without her starting to tilt backwards. But overall, it's not too bad. And I think in most poses, you can get her looking fairly decent. And from a backpack size perspective, if I just bring the MP hot rod figure, make sure they're not touching there, you can see that he's got a pretty sizable backpack too. And at least for that figure, and I'm just looking at that, he's probably going to tilt backwards too. So just let me adjust him for a little bit there. So at least he's standing up straight, straight-ish, but you can see that his backpack's pretty sizable too, and hers looks pretty much on par with it. So I'm not too fussed with the backpack, and I guess trying to get all of that car compressed in, because it's pretty much just that shell that needs to be folded up. I think they've done a fairly decent job there. With the main part of the controversies with this figure, of course, are with the chest. And I was also a little bit worried about it myself, to be honest. But in hand, it's not as bad as it looks in photos, as most things are. But of course, the controversy that everyone's talking about is this horizontal level of her chest plate here, where I guess if it was human anatomy, where the breast would be. Now, the designers actually did have a photo of the design compared to the actual human body anatomy that they were following. And, you know, if you know the human anatomy, as most of us should, you would know that this horizontal line is actually anatomically correct. So it's not that line that is the problem. You know, with human breasts, they sort of come out and then the chest sort of curves up. But with a robot, as you can see here, it doesn't translate that well to robot form. So if this angle here wasn't so sharp and it actually had a less steep incline and covered up this white part of the chest, the neck piece a little bit more, I think it would look far better. And there have actually been some customs where someone molded a custom chest plate. I think it was over on the TFW forums, where it had a more gentle incline, and it maybe reached up to halfway up that sort of hinge piece there, and it actually looks quite a lot better. But I guess in order to facilitate the transformation and flipping this part into here in car mode, I think they had to have that angle. So it was a bit of a design compromise, I guess. And for the most part, it doesn't look too bad. People have said that with articulation wise, you can get her arms all the way over like this. And if you do it on both sides, etc., you can get her doing that sort of gun holding hand. And I guess having the chest a little bit lower gives that bit of freedom. But I've seen other figures without that sort of such a low chest angle there, still be able to do that hand gun holding pose in front of them. So I guess really I think it was just a design choice to facilitate that transformation. And it's I guess it's unfortunate that it resulted in so much controversy and so on. So it's for me, it's not so much the horizontal level of where they are. It's not saggy boobs as people are calling it, because if you know anatomy, that's accurate. And it's more of this sort of steep incline that just didn't translate well into a robot. I guess with the rest of the robot, I guess it's the bottom half of her, as per the cartoon, is more of the sort of Japanese anime style with those female type style robots. I guess they've always gone with this particular sort of aesthetic for the female robot, so you can't really complain too much about it. I think it suits the animation model fairly well. I guess the head sculpt is probably the biggest difference to the animation model that I can find as as part of my opinion on the figure. I haven't swapped out the other pieces yet. For some reason, my piece here, default out of the box, has got some weird smear mark on the right cheek or just under the eye there, so I'm going to swap that out for one of the other ones. But before I do that, I'll just quickly go through the articulation. The arms, I just showed you the swivel elbow, the swivel shoulder piece there that comes out. What I don't like is this folded piece here really does hinder where you place the arms, and so it keeps sort of knocking it. So I am worried that that's going to start scratching over time. But you can put her arm back that far. You've got the double elbows, which is always good. And of course you've got the double knees. With the ankles, I actually was worried that there was no ankle tilt, but there is. There's like a swivel joint there, so you can get her into some wide poses and then angle her ankle like that, which is great. There is no rotation, and I actually had to Google whether or not there was any rotation at all, because I thought that was a fixed piece here, but you can rotate her at the thigh there, which is really needed just to get that more natural pose out of her. So just be aware of that. The hips wise, they don't go any further back than that, which I guess some people have complained about, but I've never really had a pose where the legs really needed to go that far back. There are a couple of ratchets on there. Hopefully those ratchets don't fail over time. And I guess part of the transformation, you sort of make the hips go out wide, and people have used that feature, I guess, to do some pretty nice sort of folded legs poses and etc. So you can work out a whole bunch of different poses to make her look the best that she can on display. And if you go to the TFW website, and even on some of the Facebook groups, I think some of the collectors have done some pretty amazing photos. I've shared some of those on the Cool Collectibles Facebook page, and some of them have her holding weapons and in all sorts of action, and also those fan service type poses. So she can get into some pretty nice poses all the way around. The backpack there doesn't look too bad. It is pretty chunky, and as I was saying before, it does affect her leaning backwards, so just be aware of that. But at least she doesn't need a stand to stand up in the display. So I'll just swap out some of the face plates and show you which one I've chosen. Hold on. I'll just quickly show you the swap out feature. You have to lift up this part of the head, and there is a red visor part for where she was looking at Hot Rod, I think, through the viewfinder here. And I think you just fold that down. It seems to sit okay, but it leaves a bit of a gap there. So if you squeeze it down, I think you might run the risk of scratching that head sculpt, but it doesn't look too bad. I think it works a lot better than the way I remember the Hot Rod figure worked. I'm not even going to bother trying that one again. But there's that feature there, and then you just sort of lift it up and lift out the head sculpts or the face plates like so. And I guess with this one, this is just the standard sort of semi. There's like a little bit of a smile on it for that one there, but I think there's another one here that is like a slightly open mouth there, and then there's another one here that is more of a it looks more like a serious face, And there's one here where she's sort of slightly smiling. So I might actually go with this one here. So I'll put that on and pose her up next to Hot Rod and give you guys a look at how she's going to be in my final display. Just quickly, with the face plates, I realized that looking in the instructions, the slots that you can put the face sculpts in actually have a couple of slots. So if you want to use the visor here, you just make sure that you put the face plate on the slot that's furthest in, and that'll give you just a little bit more tolerance to put the face, the eye piece down. So just be aware of that. Alright, so here she is, posed up in what I think will be my final pose in the collection. I've tried to give her that slight sassy look. I didn't quite get the curve that I was hoping for. There is a ball joint at the bottom, just on the top of her waist there, and at the mid-torso. That's a lot tighter. So you can try to manipulate those to give you that curve. I've used that sort of pose for figures like the Hot Toys Princess Leia, just to give that semblance of a bit of sass as they're standing there holding their weapon. So I might adjust it slightly to try to bring that out a bit more. But overall, I think she looks pretty good standing there, as you can see, next to Hot Rod. And they do look pretty nicely in scale with each other. Her head does seem a little bit bigger, but I guess I haven't gone back to the cartoon with to see if that's completely accurate or not. But overall, in terms of body proportions, it looks pretty good overall. And I didn't have too many other problems with articulation either, so I think they'll look good, especially with Ultra Magnus standing behind them. But that's pretty much it for my thoughts on this new MP-51 Arcee. Definitely got a few issues, particularly with balance, and I guess the controversies with the chest and so on. They could have improved that a little bit, but in the scheme of things, I think it's another pretty good addition to the MP series. I don't have any of the third-party figures to compare in bot mode, but just in some of the photo comparisons that I've seen, the other ones look a little bit more Android-y type. I think this one finds a better balance, I think, between the feminine style that the designers were going for and the cartoon aesthetic. So I think overall they've done a pretty decent job. But that's pretty much it for my thoughts on this figure. Hopefully you can click the like and subscribe button and stay tuned for my upcoming videos. I do have the Hot Toys Commander Cody coming up next, so hopefully you can stick around for that. And until then, thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. Bye.